Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the first edition of Black Authors Matter TV for 2025. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And I hope you all had an enjoyable holiday and we had a 2-week break and we're back to get back in the groove of things. There's a lot happening in the literary world. So before we bring on our first guest, I have a couple of announcements and we will be giving away one book tonight, but we'll deal with that later in the show. The National Black Book Festival registration for vendor, authors, publishers, whoever wants to be a vendor, opened January 1st. And we have gotten more early bird registrations already on the 7th than we have, like double what we had last year this time. So it's really taking off to a very fast start. So if you want to get a table, I'm thinking we might sell out by the end of May at this pace, if this pace keeps up. Some people did it like before, like 3 days before. And so we just accepted them and went on. But also, if you want to see photos from last year's festival, we've been posting them for the last couple of months. We still have photos to post because we had several hundred photos to go through and match up everybody. And so we're doing that. And finally, the NAACP Image Awards announced their nominees today. And I'm not going to go through the list. If you want to see the list, go to naacpimageawards.net. But in the literature category, several people who either been on this show or been to the National Black Book Festival were nominated. So I'm going to just run through the list really fast. Wanda M. Morris, Alyssa Cole, Sherry Smith, and Elizabeth Wayne, they were on the show as co-authors, and I think Elizabeth was in Ireland or Scotland or somewhere when she was on. Johnny Christmas and Kwame Alexander, he was a featured author in 2023 at the festival, and Frank X. Walker was the overall winner of the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards in 2023. So these were all nominated people, but the list is long. So go and check them out and see who's nominated. So anyway, Rhonda, do you have anything to say before we bring on our first guest?
Sure. So as many of you know, I host the Black History Month Literary Weekend. This year is our 9th year. And our first 2 events, we have a Books and Wine event on February 21st. And on February 22nd, we're visiting 2 middle schools. And then we are having a chat and sign at Barnes & Noble. Both of those events have already reached capacity, so I had to add more tickets.
Wow.
So I am super excited about that.
Yes.
And on February 22nd is our signature event, the Ivory and Cream Affair Literary Jazz Brunch. This year, we're going to have not just background music, but we are actually going to have a whole performance. So we have a 10-piece band coming out named Brinkcore Entertainment. We have a celebrity comedian host. We are going to be featuring 12 authors. And our guest speakers for this year are Nalena Kai and Dr. Regina Jennings. So I'm very excited about both of them. In fact, this whole event is going to be amazing. And if you have, very quickly, if you have an 8th or a 9th grader, essays, the essay contest is open. We have an 8th and 9th grade essay contest where a winner from each grade will receive $300 along with other great prizes. And the submission period is now open and it will close February 2nd. So I'll put the website in the chat in case anybody would like to download the application. And we look forward to reading your kids' essays. And you don't have to be in the DMV area to participate.
Okay, well, it looks like this year is really kicking off to be
Yes.
an active year in the literary world. That's really great. and people seem to be excited about getting out there with their work. So that's really great. So we're glad to be a part of it, however big or small. And as some of you all may know now, we are an award-winning show because we won an
Yes.
award last year for the best literary podcast. So we're excited about that. And so we're bringing on our first guest, Mr. Jeffrey Blount. And he has a new book, but also the paperback edition will be coming out next week. So we want to make sure that if you didn't get the hardcover, that you get the paperback. And he's going to tell you what the title of his book is. So welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Dr. Lawson. Nice to see you both.
Nice seeing you as well.
And Happy New
Yeah.
Year.
Happy New Year to you too. And I thank you for the opportunity to come on and talk about Mr. Jimmy from Around the Way. It does come out in paperback
Okay.
very soon, and you can pre-order it anytime you want. Mr. Jimmy is about an African-American billionaire, James Henry Ferguson, who is well known and well loved because he's a philanthropist and he loves helping people, using his money to make a difference in the lives of people. But he suffers a pretty public and shocking fall from grace. He grew up in the rural South and he decides to run to the rural South again to try and hide from social media and traditional media, buys a house sight unseen, gets to the house and realizes that he has bought this house on the edge of a neighborhood that's mired in total abject poverty. And he doesn't really want to have anything to do with the neighborhood because he's got his own problems, but he gets drawn in. And then the book follows his attempt to find some sort of redemption while he is at the same time trying to save his new community from collapsing.
Now, is this based on any true events or close to true events, or is this just Jeffrey Blount's imagination?
It's my imagination. It's something. It's a carryover from my time in the news business and witnessing and seeing, and also, I mean, I grew up in the rural South, so witnessing the kind of poverty that can exist and the kind of issues that I want to take on in my writing. I like to think of myself as a literary activist, so this gives me the opportunity when I build this community to show readers about the kind of issues we have in these communities, the lack of health care, lack of education, lack of proper housing, on and on and on. And so I wanted to tackle these issues. And one way to do that was to get this brilliant Black billionaire into this space to see it through his eyes, and a person with a philanthropic heart to see what that would turn into in this kind of community.
I like that because I think right now people don't like to be preached to per se. So many people maybe will shy away from a nonfiction book or a self-help book, so to speak, but they will ingest those same truths and digest those same truths through fiction. So you're making a wonderful commentary on society and life, but doing it in a fictional way. And so people will be able to receive that message that you're passing on.
Well, I believe in the power of the written word, and we can go all the way back to The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. The man sat in a room by himself and wrote a book, and that book changed the legislative direction of a nation. And we think of Toni Morrison, we think of Beloved, which changed the whole attitude we have about the benevolent South, as it were. And she taught us to see that in a different way. She changed how we viewed a part of our history. So this is the power of literature, the power of fiction, the power of stories. We know that fiction creates empathy in people.
Yes.
And so when you use this vehicle, fiction, to create this kind of empathy, to create these situations, and put readers in that space. And I really feel like reading fiction in a really good story is the closest we can get to being in somebody else's shoes. And so if you're
Absolutely.
in that space and you're in those shoes and you're feeling all of these things that are happening in the book, then you are affected by it. And I think that I can make a difference by putting people in that space and making them feel, the power that life in that community that I've created.
Yeah, fiction is very good for conversations, and that's what happens in book club meetings
Yes.
when I'm in two book clubs, and when we discuss a book, the books that we like the best are the ones that really elicit a lot of comments, feedback, um, just picking apart the characters, thinking about how the story could have gone in a different direction,
Mhm.
just all kinds of things, and relating it to current events. If it's especially with contemporary fiction, a lot of it we
Absolutely.
can relate to current events. Um, and sometimes fiction is the best way to present a new concept or something that's not widely known. I know my
Right.
first novel, which is called The Genesis Files, features the Limba tribe, which is an actual African tribe that can trace its lineage back to Aaron in the Bible through their DNA. They have
Wow.
more Jewish DNA markers than the European Jews that we see today. And so when I first heard about them, I wanted to write a book, but because I didn't hear anymore. It was like I saw an article and then that was it. And I didn't think a nonfiction book would sell. So I wrote a novel, which is a mystery, and I wove them into the story. And in my author's note, I said, this is a real tribe. And I get so many emails. That book came out 10 years ago, but I get so many emails from people who say that my book led them to research the Limba tribe. They never heard of them. And so fiction is a good way to bring concepts out, ideas, a different way of looking at things, um, taking historical events and putting a different spin on it. It's
Yeah.
all kinds of
Yeah.
things you can do with. You can take a lot of liberties with fiction. So
Right.
now we actually heard about your book through the gentleman who did your audiobook, Earl Sewell. He was on
Yes.
the show, I think maybe October, somewhere in there. And he told us about your book. And then I looked it up and I said, well, this would be a good person to have on the show. So, and I do plan to
Thank
get a
you.
copy. I was waiting for the paperback since it was close to
Right.
the paperback release. So it's in my shopping cart to
Excellent. Thank
order.
you.
Yes, to order on my next order of books. So,
Now
um,
is the book on audio yet?
It is. That's Earl.
yeah,
He did
that's
it.
what
And
Earl
Oh,
did.
that's right. You just said
yeah,
that.
and
Okay, so
he did
I
a
have to
fantastic
listen to
job.
it. Yeah, I have to listen to it on audio because I'm so busy. I have a full-time job, then and then I do the show, and then I have
Right.
the business. I can only listen to books right now. So I'm actually listening to two different books right now. Yeah, well, one day I might listen to a book, on another day I'll listen to a
Right.
different book.
Right.
So she's
Right.
looking at me, how do you listen to two books at the same time?
I mean, it's not. It's probably possible. I can't do audiobooks. I tried once. I may try again, but it just put me to sleep. I was listening and just
That's
it
my
just
problem.
it put me to
That is
sleep.
my problem.
Yeah,
But
That's
well,
my
over
that's
the
problem.
Christmas
yeah.
holidays,
It depends on your
on the
activity.
book.
I listen to
Okay,
audiobooks while I'm driving,
right.
and I
Yeah.
listen to
Yeah.
audiobooks while I'm exercising. So, like if I go
Okay.
Yeah.
take a walk, if I go to the gym, I'm listening to an
Right.
audiobook. And if things aren't too crazy at work, like let's say I'm just typing a press release or something, I can listen to
Right.
an audiobook then. But yeah, I can't just listen to it, like sit down and just listen to an audiobook.
Okay, well, maybe that's what happened because, of course, we don't want to be falling asleep behind the wheel or
Right.
Right.
the treadmill. Yeah, that could be dangerous. But over the holidays, I was able to catch up on some reading that I hadn't been able to get to because when you have a busy schedule, sometimes you just can't do it. And so I
Yeah.
was really
Yeah.
able to read. I'm on the fourth book, so I was able to finish three, and I'm on the fourth book from the holidays because I did have some downtime. So I was excited about that, just being able to kind of sit, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
read.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, That was exciting. So the billionaire that, oh, before I asked that about the billionaire, you said you were from the rural South. Where are you from in the rural South?
Southeastern Virginia is where I grew up, in a little town called Smithfield, Virginia. If you ever
Okay,
heard of Smithfield
you
hams.
okay. I'm from Newport News.
Oh.
So yeah, I heard
Oh,
of Smithfield.
And goes to show you how small the world is. You're living
Yes.
in
that's
DC
right.
now,
I'm living in DC.
and I'm right down the street from you. I'm in Maryland.
Oh, how about
Yeah.
that?
Yes. I've been in Houston for a long time, but Newport News is where I grew up. I
That's
graduated
funny.
from Warwick High School,
Yeah,
and my
yeah.
parents, they're both passed, but they had a home in Carrollton,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
which is right across the James River Bridge, like the
That's
first
right.
community you get to before you get to
Right,
Smithfield. So
right,
we grew
right.
up on Smithfield Ham and all that. Yeah. From
Excellent,
Well,
Mississippi, but
excellent.
that's great. That's really just, it's a small world. So
Yeah.
in your book, The Rural South, what's the setting in your book?
It's Ham, Mississippi, and it's a totally made up town. It
Okay.
has biblical implications in the sense that in the people have used. There's no real indication in the Bible, but people have used the situation with Ham, the character in the Bible, to who has been quote belittled and sent down to the level of something less than all the other human beings. And so during slavery in the slave Bible, they were talking to slaves and telling them that the Bible says that they are less than and are meant to be slaves and meant to be servants of these people, which is what happened to Ham in the book. So in the Bible, so I created this town because I wanted people, if anybody came to it with that biblical thought in their mind, they would know that this is a people, these are Ham's people that supposedly have been put down and left aside and brushed aside by society. But here is, for some reason, this billionaire who's dropped into the midst of them to see what a change he can bring.
That's
well,
really interesting.
this book has really hit the mark with a lot of readers. I mean, it was one of the best books of 2024. It's won some awards. Did you realize that this book would make such an impact?
I realized, well, Robert Frost, one of the sayings I love from him is if there's no tears in the writer, there are no tears in the reader. So
Mm.
this book was a very emotional experience to write for me. And I think I felt at the end when I finally finished that I had written a book that could touch people, that it touched me, that it changed me, that's actually changed how I view my responsibility in the world after having gone through the process of creating the book and putting it out there. So I really felt like people would be affected by it. And I can tell you one of the quotes that I love came from a woman on Goodreads that said, "I have never had a fictional book strike such a call to action in my soul before." So,
Wow.
I know from that people have been affected by it. And I just got, I think it was last week, and I love this. This came from a young African American guy. He said, "Thank you, Mr. Blount, for allowing Black boys, girls, men, and women to see that financial and educational success of that magnitude is possible, and that helping other people can still be a part of the story."
That's
So
beautiful.
yeah, and so the mission is happening is in when you sit down as a writer, and you want to make a point to get people to open their eyes about something, Gwen, as you talked about with the tribe. And then when it happens, all of that time you spend alone in that room writing, it's worth it,
Mm.
because you're making some kind of change.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write the book?
A year and a half, and I call it my pandemic baby because that's basically what I was doing.
A
I could
lot of
take my
books were
time.
birthed out of the pandemic.
I just wish I
Absolutely.
was bored during COVID. I wanted to be able to just have time to write a book. People
Well,
felt
we
like, oh, we don't
started
have to
this
go to
show
work. Let's do a million other things.
We started
Well,
this show
luckily,
so it though?
Luckily, I
We
have,
did.
yeah, I haven't. Oh, during the pandemic, you
We
started it?
started
did.
this show
Oh,
3 or 4 months into the pandemic, and it's 4 years old now. So that was something that, you know, probably
yeah.
wouldn't have happened had the pandemic not happened
Okay.
because
This is true.
Yeah.
because we couldn't do the festival. We wanted the National Black Book Festival. We wanted to do something to keep the message out there about African American literature, and
Yeah.
that's
Right.
what this is. But had that not happened, we probably wouldn't have felt the need. I don't know. We may have, but not then. You
Yeah.
know, but it was
And
directly a result.
well, that's excellent. And one of the other things I wanted to do, one of the things I thought about when I was writing this book and sitting on the back porch during the pandemic was talking about culture and what kind of culture I wanted people to remember that was a part of the African American experience. When I was at NBC and a director, you would hear people on the set or reporters or people say they kept saying urban, they kept saying urban, they kept saying urban over the years to a point when urban was another word for black.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
and
Mm-hmm.
and I would say you can't do that because not every black person lives in the city. You know,
I live in the country.
my yeah, well, my I grew up in the country. My relatives are still farmers in the country, and so there's a whole different dynamic sometimes, a whole different experience sometimes, and I kind of feel like it's my duty as an African American raised in the South to remind people that this is where the Great Migration came from, and this is still a part of who we all are. And these people who are living like the folks in Ham, Mississippi, unfortunately, this kind of poverty still exists. And I wanted to put a person who had had an education, who had had contacts, who had money, who could go into a community and show them themselves and show them the
Mm,
possibility of themselves, which oftentimes the South refuses to do with African American communities.
Now,
mm.
did you name Ham like it is in the Bible with one M, or did you change the spelling at all?
No, I think it's the same. I hope it is.
Well, tell me about the experience of creating a fictional city. Did you base it on a real life city, or was this totally from your imagination? Because one thing I do like about books, like for instance, The Five People You Meet in Heaven, that was a fictional city.
Right.
And the good thing about that is you can basically create your own world.
That's right. That's right. And so as opposed to writing historical fiction, this book is just Jeffrey fiction. I just made it up. And
Mhm.
so I didn't want to focus myself on, writing this particular street or somebody might know the street or the church that I wrote about or something like that. I wanted all the focus on these people in this community. So often in that situation, in my mind, the reader will accept what I'm giving, not expecting to see that they crossed this bridge, this very famous bridge, or not expecting to hear about this particular high school or something like that. They can just accept the town as it is and what I give them, because I really wanted the focus to be on that, and nothing else. And this community that's called Around the Way. I wanted everybody to think about that. And so I created really a few sets in the book where you have
Okay.
the lane where the 22 houses are. There's a particular there's a motel that has a big place in the book and some other spots like a hospital and things where things happened. But I don't pull back far enough so that I could speak to you about, the design of the city because I wanted it something smaller or something more intimate.
Okay. Now, was this your first novel?
This is my fourth.
Oh, okay. This is your fourth novel. Okay. All right.
But the last two are the ones that I consider the books are that I began to feel myself as a writer and show the talent that I think I have, and I'm busy trying to make better all the time.
Oh,
Now, with
well,
the television career that you had, were you writing with TV?
Um,
Were you behind camera, on camera,
I was
production?
behind the camera. I was a director. So I was the director of Meet the Press. I was the director of NBC Nightly News, the first African American to direct the Today Show. I directed special events like today was Jimmy Carter's funeral in the district. Well, I directed the funeral of President Ford. I've done State of the Union addresses,
Oh,
many White House press conferences and presidential
very
speeches and things
fulfilling.
like that.
You've
Yeah,
so
it
you've
was a
gotten to,
what is
you've
the
gotten
great
to see
director
a
career.
do?
lot.
Yeah, what does the director do exactly?
Well, it's very different from a film director. So, a live television director in this situation will be if you're looking at your camera and let's say you're watching the evening news, and
Hmm.
it comes on and there's the anchor sitting behind a desk and you see the camera slowly push in. Well, the camera is slowly pushing in because the director asked for it. Think of that. We used to think of ourselves as the gatekeepers. Nothing happens on your television set for that show unless a director calls for it. So when you see the graphic change, it's a director saying change to something. If you see a tape appears because the director says roll that tape, take that tape. If you see a correspondent appear at the White House, your director will say stand by at the White House, take the White House, and that person will be there. And so
Okay.
it's a technical thing in controlling the flow of the show, and you're in charge of the look and all of that stuff. But in the news business, it's also an editorial thing. So a good friend of mine, who's a director named John Libretto, um, during a presidential debate, it was George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. He took a shot of he waited, he saw this thing happen first, and then he waited around because he thought it was going to happen again. He took this shot of George Bush Sr. looking at his watch in the middle of the debate, which looked like he was bored, didn't want to be there, whatever. And it is considered one of the top 10 moments in presidential debates. And it actually affected his, as he tried to go on and campaign, this followed him. It affected him. And so editorially, you do all these things too. In a show with Meet the Press, you really have to follow the show editorially to know what the guests are talking about and when the host might call for a soundbite that this guest said or a graphic or something like that. You've got to be really in there so you can get to the proper thing at the proper time. So it's a very
George
high pressure, high energy job.
George W. Bush had a lot of unfortunate photos. I think there was also a photo very famous of him writing a note to someone saying he had to go to the bathroom, and somebody over took that photo over his shoulder, and then that photo
Right,
went viral. He just
right.
had that unfortunate thing about him where he always got caught in these funny videos or these funny photos.
Now,
Uh,
did that happen to the dad or the son? Because I
that was
know
That was
that,
the dad.
yeah,
That
the
was the
dad
dad,
was the watch watching
Yeah, the
the.
dad
was the
was the
watch.
watch, but
Uh,
his
But
son
you're
was the
right.
one with the note you wanting saying he had to go to the bathroom.
Yes, right,
okay, that's what
right.
I
And
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
yeah,
knew about the
yeah,
watch, and you're right that what looking at the watch that did follow him through the
yeah.
campaign because
Mhm.
it was about him really being sort of detached
That's
from the
right.
electorate. And
That's
he
right.
Mhm.
just wasn't it, Bill Clinton was well is, but at that time he was very personable, very
Right,
charismatic. And that
right,
wasn't George H.W. Bush's. He didn't have charisma. What he had was a lot of experience. And so
right, right.
um that but you never know that somebody actually made a decision to capture that image.
That's
You
right.
know,
That's right.
you
Yeah.
this is my first time hearing about it. So a lot of times we think things just kind of happen, but you're saying
Right.
nothing happens without that director.
That's right. And
Mhm.
so when you're in a live broadcast, whether it was, today you saw the case on bringing President Carter's remains down the street and all the different camera angles and different shots. There's a director in there saying, take that camera, asking for another shot on that camera, take that camera. All of
Oh,
those things are happening because the director is doing that. And it's the same that when if you're watching the Oscars, every time it changes a picture, um, somebody's directing. Even when you hear a person say, "And coming out on the stage to give the award for," somebody's giving that cue so
Right.
that the announcer will announce. One a little boy asked me when I was speaking at an elementary school several years ago, and he wanted to know if a director was powerful. And I said to him, well, there was a time when President George W. Was going on the air to tell the world that we were going into Iraq, that we were going to go to war. And he goes into the Oval Office and he sits down. Now, he can't talk until what? And the little boy looks at me and I said, until I told him to. And the little boy said, "What?" And I said, "Yes, because we were the pool, and what we were doing was going to go around the world." He didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, so he's waiting for me to cue him. So a little boy from a farm in Smithfield, Virginia, is in a position so that he can say to the President of the United States, "Okay, Mr. President, you can talk now."
That's awesome. Well,
Well,
unfortunately, I think we've made it to the bottom of the interview. So I can see now we could have talked probably for another hour. So but I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story with us. Congratulations on all the
Thank
success
you.
that the
show
book
the
has
cover
had.
of the book one more
Yes,
time.
please do.
Okay.
Show the cover of the book. Go out and get your copy of
Mr.
Jimmy
Jimmy
from
from
Around
around
the
the way.
Way.
From around the way, yeah.
And it will be out in paperback next week. But you can also get the hardcover if you would like.
You can also
That's
get
right.
the hardcover and you can get the audio
The
book.
audio book. I keep forgetting about
That's
the
right.
audio
And
book.
the Kindle version.
There you go.
Yeah,
Well,
and
we
the
Yeah.
did
ebook.
put your website in the chat. So everybody click that link, purchase this
Thank
book.
you.
It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And I can't wait to dive into it. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and get my audio. My phone's right here, so I'm gonna be, oh, you can't see it, but there it
I
is.
see it.
So I'm gonna be downloading my book. I can't wait to dive into this story. Just the layers that you described were beautiful. So thank
Yeah,
you for
Thank
that.
yeah.
thank you,
Ha-
Dr. Lawson. Thank you, Gwen. Appreciate
Have,
it.
have a good evening and Happy New Year
All right.
again.
Happy New Year. Take care.
Bye
You
bye.
Bye-bye.
too. Bye bye. Okay, so we are ready for our next guest, and his name is Marcus Moore, and he also has he's a multi-talented person who has multiple titles, and he has a new book out about uh, the group De La Soul, and the book is called High and Rising, a book about
Oh, I love De La
De La
Soul.
Soul.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
You're
Well,
welcome,
thank you for being here.
and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Hope it's going well for you both so
So
far.
far, so
Yeah,
great.
so far, so good.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so you are not only an author, but you also are a curator and a music journalist. So tell us a little bit about your musical background in terms of how you got involved in being a journalist that reports on music.
Oh, so before I started writing about music, I was in the DC area writing for this newspaper called the Gazette newspaper.
Hmm.
And I was covering education. I was covering Montgomery County education. Every so often, I'd had to go to Baltimore, cover some statewide education. But I'd been doing that for about 6 years, and quite literally, I want to say it was the year 2010. I was in a school board meeting and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to, go cover music because I've always loved music. And I decided to marry those two loves, music and writing. And so I just kind of started my own blog. Honestly, it was a short-lived thing called DMV Spectrum, where I was covering jazz, hip hop, soul from DC, from the DC area. And from there, it just kind of snowballed, honestly. I reached out, like my career was just sort of built on me reaching out to people. So I reached out to BBC Music and I reached out to MTV and et cetera, et cetera. And, that's sort of how I got into it. And I just, kind of built my career from scratch, so to speak.
I know that feeling. You have to
I
reach out to
understand.
people because if you sit around and just wait for people to reach out to you, it may not happen. So
That's right.
It
That's
probably
right.
won't happen.
No, that's
So,
right. Yeah.
I'm a music lover as well. So, like, what are some of your favorite artists or type of music?
Oh, well, I grew up as hip hop was becoming a thing. So, I remember it was the 80s and I was listening to like Public Enemy. I was listening to, I wasn't supposed to be, but I was listening to NWA. I was listening to, Boogie Down Production, stuff like that. But then I grew up in a household with family members who was listening to all kinds of music. So my grandmother's playing traditional gospel music. I had aunts who were into like funk records, so they were playing like Sly Stone and funkadelic records like that. And then I'm coming up with hip hop. So but then in recent years, actually, within the past decade, I've become like jazz guy, you know. And that's how the public knows me now. I curate this column at the New York Times called 5 Minutes That Will Make You Love. And it'll be 5 minutes that'll make you love John Coltrane, 5 minutes that'll make you love Alice Coltrane.
Love
So
it.
now I'm totally like jazz guy, but in my heart of hearts, I'm definitely a hip hop dude still.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not a hip hop girl, but I think Rhonda is, but
Oh,
I'm not.
I was just gonna say I'm a hip hop person like
Well, I don't know, but I know you're more familiar with it than I am.
I'm
See,
familiar
I'm more
with the
like your
music.
aunts, but maybe younger than your aunts, but older than you. I'm somewhere in there. So, but I
Well,
love music.
I do like hip hop. But I'm really more of a R&B, classic R&B, soul, neo soul type of girl.
This is me. That's me too. So I like vocals. I like instruments.
Yeah, see, that's my thing.
So
I love vocals and I love instruments. You can
good
give me a
band.
really good soulful instrument and
Yeah,
I'm good. I can just listen to that all night.
yeah, me too. Um I recently became aware of, and I don't know if he's still performing because so much happened with COVID. He used to be performing live, and I'm not sure but he was a violinist. He could play anything. He could turn any song
Yeah.
on that violin into something just masterful. And he did gospel, he did jazz, he did R&B. He even would do some rock. He turned that violin into an amazing. His name is Daniel D. And
Okay.
if you've never written about him, check him out because he is an exceptional talent, just amazing. But I like instruments, and so hip hop generally. I'm generalizing.
Well, I've got to
That's
say that's one thing I
me.
liked about De La Soul though is because they had and it's in their name, they had a very soulful sound about them.
Mhm.
It wasn't that hip hop that it wasn't like in your face type of hip hop. It was very soulful. You can relax to it, but you're still gonna hear a message with it. And so that's why I like them. I'm wondering, is their style of music what made you decide to write about them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing I liked about De La is that they were attainable. Like as much as I dug the hip hop that I, kind of referenced before, be it, even other artists like be it Rakim, be it LL Cool
Hmm.
J,
And
et
I like
cetera.
Rakim too now.
Rakim, but the thing about De La is like I felt like they look like my cousins, you know,
Oh,
and they were kind of left of center. So my older cousin Isaac in particular, so I grew up in the DC area, and I remember he had a skateboard. And in the 80s, like black kids, really, I didn't see him skateboard. So De La sort of spoke to us. They spoke to like kids like us who like, yeah, we grew up listening to hip hop, but we also grew up listening to our grandmother's gospel records. And, maybe we like jazz, maybe we like punk rock music, et cetera, et cetera. So they sort of tapped into an audience that felt a little left of center, maybe for the lack of a better term, they felt out of place. But
hmm,
through their music and their fashion, they showed that there's a place for everything, and you don't always have to be so angry and tough all the time.
right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing that's and I hate to generalize. I just feel like when I hear, I'll just say rap in particular, it's like I'm being beat up. I'm not, you know, I'm not being wooed or caressed or even put in a good mood. It's like I'm made to feel angry. It's angry to me. And I recently looked at they had Luther Vandross. I don't know if you saw the documentary that
Hmm.
was played recently, like in the last week of Luther. And someone asked me, oh, my daughter's fiance asked me, who do you think is the best in your mind? Who's the best male vocalist? And I said Luther. If I'm taking vocals, just vocals, not like Stevie is a good songwriter, producer, and Luther wrote some songs too. When he remade a song, it was remade all the way. But
Yeah.
his voice was just so pure. And he could do so much with it. And that's what I really like about even some the R&B singers of the past. Their vocals just really, you could really sit and relax listening to it. I don't know. Can you relax listening to some of the I'm just asking.
That's fair.
Whenever I hear it, I feel like somebody's beating me up, or it's just anger to me. It's just anger.
I guess it just depends because there is definitely some hip hop that doesn't always seem so angry, but I feel like a lot of it's underground. Like even today.
Okay, my daughter says she listens to some like alternative, like not mainstream necessarily. She
Hmm.
listens to other artists. And see, I wouldn't hear their music. So,
Yeah.
you
No,
know.
that's fair. It's like you kind of they make you kind of hunt and dig for stuff like that now. Like mainstream rap is all going to sound exactly the same by and large, but you got to kind of hunt and dig for the stuff that your daughter's talking about. And there's some good stuff under there. Now, don't get me wrong, some of that stuff you can feel beaten up too, but you're not going to feel as beaten up by underground hip hop as you will with mainstream hip hop.
Yeah, or
Well,
disrespected. I mean, from a
Yeah.
female standpoint, it's very negative about women. A lot of it is. And I wonder how, every generation, the music that you listen to is really like the soundtrack for your coming up years, your formative years. And if the soundtrack for your formative years is negative in terms of you, like for females, I wonder how it makes them feel. Really, the young women of today. And we're kind of off topic, but we're not totally off topic because we're talking about music.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good question. I mean, I hesitate to answer it because I'm not a woman and I don't want to speak for women, but at the same time, that's a tough convo, because I feel like I do have friends who are women and they always talk about how, the messages in the music aren't great, but they still can listen to people like, Juvenile, or they can listen to like NWA and compartmentalize it. But I also have friends who are like, no, I don't listen to rap. I've never listened to rap because of that very thing that you talked about.
Yeah, I wish it was happier. Um, I wish the outlook was happier.
Hmm.
And it may be, the artists they may be reflecting their reality, but because it is transferred to so many millions of other people, then it does have an impact, I think, on just people's outlook, just on society.
well, moving on to a happier subject. The book.
Yeah, Rhonda will move me on
So
sometimes.
yes. But um I noticed as a journalist, a music journalist, you've written about De La Soul, you've also written about Kendrick Lamar. What exactly what stories are you telling about them? Is it about their trajectory through the or their journey through the music industry? or are you talking about one specific thing?
With both of those artists, it's more so about their trajectory through life and music. So with Kendrick Lamar, it was more so about like his moment in time. Like when you think about Kendrick from I want to say about 2005 to now, there was no denying the impact that he made on culture. And that book came out in 2020. So it was more so about like his impact from 2005 to 2019 and
Mhm.
how he went from like this young kid who just was trying to figure things out to this, quote unquote paragon of black culture to a Pulitzer Prize winning musician or Pulitzer Prize winning rapper, because that never happens. Like rappers don't get that award. So it was more so about what he means to culture, whereas De La has some biography in it, but it was more so about me. It was more so about my growing up with the music, and it was about me and my family, me and my cousins really, how we grew up with De La Soul and how their music impacted. It was more so about how their music impacted me specifically. And even with this next book, it's looking more so inward. It's about me and my mom's relationship through music, through 12 to
Right.
14 songs. And so that's solely about like, okay, how did we react to Stevie Wonder? How did we react to James Brown, the Isleys, etc.? So with any of this stuff, honestly, like I try to pick subjects that don't exist in the literary space, because you can read a million books on Bruce Springsteen, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, etc. But I feel like why can't you read a book about Kendrick Lamar? Like he means a lot to a lot of young kids. Why can't you read about De La Soul? I feel like there needs to be room for everybody in the literary marketplace. And that's really all I try to do with these books is just kind of give people narratives that they don't know that they need yet.
I agree with that. And I would say you chose De La Soul and Kendrick Lamar. They've always been renowned for their musicality. Kendrick is an amazing an amazing rapper. So I love him. And I told you I already love De La Soul. You chose people who had a real impact on music. And then I like how you said your third book is going to be about your mother's and your relationship through music. Is she somewhat of a music historian herself?
She was indirectly, like I learned a lot of music through her. And what I realized even over this past year, I'd be listening. I'd be somewhere listening to like Stevie Wonder's Ordinary Pain, for instance, that song. And I
Mhm.
just remembered how she would respond to it. Or I'd be playing the radio and Madonna's Like a Prayer comes on and I'd see her like, driving and bopping to it. So indirectly, my mom taught me about a lot of culture. And with this next book, it's me trying to process some grief, if I'm being real with you all.
Mm,
But it's also about me honoring her as a historian and honoring her as like a whole person and not just my mom. But
that's
while
beautiful.
yeah, giving her flowers for impacting my life the way that she did
That's
So your
still
beautiful.
mother
does.
And
has
yeah.
passed away.
Yeah, she transitioned as I was finishing Daylight actually. She
Wow.
transitioned August 22nd, 2023.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. I'm
yeah.
Yep.
sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss.
No, thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, so it's still quite fresh, but at the same time, I want to celebrate her as much as I can in the most authentic way that I can.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
you mentioned Stevie, you mentioned the Isley Brothers, and who else did you mention?
James, did I say
James
James Brown?
Brown.
Yeah, James Brown.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. See, that's my lane right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna write about Tina Turner.
Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
Tina, um, it's the early Tina that was before me. So, well, but the Tina after that's the one that I, listen to. But the Tina before, I looked at a documentary about her and I that was on Tubi. Tubi has some really interesting stuff. But she was very she had a lot of energy. just when she would perform, she
Yep.
and those dancers, I mean, you talk about a workout. I It was amazing the things that she did and what she was going through, and people didn't know what she was having to deal with. So,
That's
she's just an amazingly talented human being.
yeah. I think as a performer, Beyonce owes her a lot, because
Mhm.
anytime I see Beyonce perform, I'm like, oh, that's Tina, essentially. Um, yeah, it's like, okay, I'll give her
Don't say
credit,
that. The
but
beehive gonna come after you.
I ain't studying no beehive. Like, I'm telling the truth. I'm being honest. I'm being honest. I mean, that's not to take away from her, but also give credit where it's due now. Tina.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
when Tina did it, I don't. Nobody else was doing that. I don't. I mean, it was some completely new and different um, when she was doing it. But the footage showed like them, uh, Ike and Tina early on, like when she was. I didn't even know about these songs that they had in the documentary. Basically from the old Tina, you hear the same ones with Tina and Ike. The same ones, two or three songs that get played all the time. But
Mhm.
they had a lot of other songs that may not probably made the R&B charts, but didn't make didn't cross over,
Yeah, they make the pop charts.
didn't
Yeah.
make the pop charts. So now, when you write about music or musicians, as a writer, how do you approach not necessarily writing a book, but just the articles that you write? How do you approach writing about music, like putting the words
Yeah.
to something people listen to?
I try to write from a sense of feeling, because I feel like a lot of my colleagues, I can't say a lot, some of my colleagues, I feel like they'll write for other writers, meaning like it's all about sentence construction and it's about using the biggest word possible to show how smart you are, you know. Whereas I'm like, okay, that's great, you can do that, but there's a simple elegance to writing, and pace is also very important, where I always want to write from a place of here's why I like the music. Maybe you'll like it for the same reason, but if not, that's cool. I never want to write from a place of authority, from the sense of, okay, this is a great record because I said so. I
Right.
always I
Right.
always write from a place of empathy, and then if I'm profiling an artist or if I'm interviewing somebody, I also kind of look at my role as like one of a sort of a method actor, so to speak. So because I cover so many genres of music, so if I'm talking to an ambient musician, for instance, like my job is to listen to that music over and over, where I can kind of see where this is coming from and see the creative intent and write about it from that place. So I try to get inside the music as much as possible, as crazy as that may sound.
Doesn't sound crazy
Cool.
at all.
So I
It
just
does.
try to, yeah, I try to explain it, and I also just try to explain it in layman's terms and not just be like, the juxtaposition of the this and that. Just say
But
say what it is, and people will get
no,
it.
when you with the music that you're writing about, the audience that loves that music, they don't want to hear juxtaposition. All of
Right,
that.
right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's like, no, just what does it convey? What images does the music convey? And I try to get to that as much as possible, just putting the reader in a visual space where they can see the music playing out as much as possible.
Absolutely. Now, what type of what formats is your book in? Is it in audio? Is it in Kindle, paperback?
Yeah, it's in
Yes.
everything.
Okay,
It's
because I'm picturing a fire audiobook with the music soundtrack and everything.
what- they didn't let me voice it out.
Oh,
Let you do
oh.
that.
They didn't let I had a
You
whole
get the
vision.
rights. You didn't get the rights to those songs.
No, I had a whole vision. They didn't even let me voice my audiobook. So there you go.
You didn't
Um,
get to voice your book either?
I didn't
And
voice
you
it.
Oh,
have a good voice for
yeah,
audio.
you do have a good
You do
voice.
Oh,
radio.
thank you.
been on the radio or anything like that?
Yeah, no, I'm on the radio often. I don't have a show, but yeah, I
Okay.
definitely am on the radio. But yeah, no, they already had it voiced up before I even knew it. I was like, okay, well, all right.
Oh,
But I'm
that's good
voicing up the
stuff.
next one though. I mean, the next one's about
Okay.
me and my mom. I'm fighting
Right.
tooth and nail to
Oh
voice the
yeah,
next.
you have to voice that one.
Mhm.
Yeah, ain't nobody else voicing that next one.
Yeah,
I
when
know
is that
that's
coming
right.
out? I would love to get into both of your minds on it because I'm a big music lover, but it's a certain music. It's not narrow. It's just certain type of music. But I also like jazz, and because jazz is still where they still have a band, you still have instruments,
Hmm.
and gospel has some amazing bands actually. Um, that's where you can hear some live music recorded. You know what I'm saying? Um, with instruments and a band, and just just the full 9 yards. When you listen to some of the older music, it has horns and percussion, not just drums. It'll have other percussion, and it'll have the lead and the bass guitar, of course. Some of them have the organ. It's just sometimes in some of those songs they did a long instrumentation after or before the actual vocals on a lot of them.
Hmm.
So the bands were just amazing. And so um I love music like from that vantage point. But I would love to see what you and your mom talked about with the different
Yeah.
because it sounds like it's the songs, the era, the artists that I really like.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be good. So it's
When does
probably
that
not
come out?
it's probably not coming out until next year, if I'm being honest. It's coming out probably next fall because it's due this year, later this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
Well,
And after
well,
a year,
yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense though because the current book was just released in November on my daughter's birthday, by the way, November
Oh, right
19th.
on. Happy birthday.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that gives you some time.
yeah, I want to definitely make sure I get it and then have you back on the show to talk about it. So when it comes out, so I'm going to make a note to make sure that I keep track of when it gets released so we can get you back on the show. Now, do you have a copy of your book with you, Andy?
Oh, I do not. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No. I
Okay, well,
don't.
I was going to have you
Marcus.
show the cover, but it's called High
Go
and
ahead.
Rising. And it's a book about De La Soul. And I think that's just really great that you write about music and the way, the aspect of it that you write about is just really refreshing. I have to start looking you up. Do you still have a blog or do you still do, what do you do with your music as far as letting people know what you're thinking at any given time or whatever? Do you have something that you communicate regularly with people or do we just look up your articles?
Well, I'm dusting off a Substack. I'm actually working on an essay, my first essay for my own Substack.
Nice.
It's called Active Listening. And
Okay.
but yeah, everything else, like it's, if you just, type my name into the New York Times, all that stuff will come up, or um Washington Post, all of that. Yeah. I'm pretty easy to find. So, and even on my website, I have a writing section where if you just go to writing, there's a selection of articles there that you can just kind of pick and choose which ones you want to check out.
So you're in New York now. I know you said you grew up in the DC area, but you're not still here, are you?
You know what? I'm actually here right now for the holidays.
Oh,
I'm
that's
in
nice.
yes, I'm in PG County right now for the holiday. Well,
I live in PG County.
oh no way. Okay, shout out. Look at you. Look at you,
You
hometown. I
probably
see
you
you.
probably don't know about my little town though.
Your
I
little
live in
town.
I live in Akakeek.
Oh, I know where Akakik is. I'm from Landover. So
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, you
yeah.
probably know that.
No, I know these streets. Come on
Yeah,
now.
usually when I tell people I live in Akakeek, they look at me like, "Where's that?"
No. That's straight down 210. Absolutely. I know.
Yep, yep. The
Yeah, it's
highway of
more and
they
more
call it.
people that are living there or moving there. That's like a up and coming outer suburb, outer suburb
It
Mm-hmm.
is.
DMV
Absolutely.
area.
Yep.
Yeah, so they have to build. They have to go out to build if you want something new.
That's true. That's
That
true.
is very true. And they're still building houses out here.
Yeah. So, well, we're at the end of our time, but we really appreciate your coming on and telling us about your book and your writing and getting the chance to talk about music and your family enjoying music together. You know, this really it's good when it's a family activity,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and when everybody can enjoy it. And that's great. So I look forward to reading more about your thoughts on music and especially your upcoming book. Do you have a title yet for your book? Or I
Yeah,
just look up Marcus Moore.
no, it's going to be called Songs from My Mother.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
tribute.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, take care. Happy New Year. And we'll continue to look out for your work.
All right. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you. You have a great night.
You too.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. And you know what, we've never really listened to music together. We'll have to make that happen.
Yeah. And next time we're in the same city, we have to go find a music show to go to.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We will. So Atlanta, I think, is going to be it. We'll have to do that when we
Oh
go there.
yeah, I got to talk to you about that offline.
Oh, okay.
Nothing bad. Nothing bad.
Okay. Okay. All right. I was going to say, I need my ride or die buddy with me.
Yeah, no, I will
Okay.
be there.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I have 3 or 4 things this year I'm going to be doing. So,
Okay.
and my daughter's engaged, so she's going to be getting married in June. So, you know, she's all grown up. She's been grown up for a while, but we like him. He's a good addition to the family.
That's
So,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
it's right in with everybody. So, our next guest is one of
Oh,
the
we're not
women.
doing the question yet.
Oh yeah, well we can do that. We can do that. And we'll do that now. Nikki, hold on 1 second. We're going to be giving away one of our books for our viewers, and we have a trivia question that we asked. So the book that we're giving away is one of the Black Odyssey Media's published authors. It's Tainted Liberties by L.R. Jackson. And the trivia question for the book is, there are 4 characters mentioned in the book synopsis. What are the names of Mark's wife and Eva's husband? So all we need are the first names that's in the synopsis. Give us the name of Mark's wife and Eva's husband. And the book will be yours and it will be mailed to you. And if you're one of our regular viewers and we've sent you a book before, that means we have your address. But if you're one of our new viewers or you've never won a book before and you win, you just give us the address. So our next guest, Nikki, thank you for your patience, is
No
Nikki
problem.
Anthony. And Nikki was a winner of our Black Authors Matter Children's Book Award in the social commentary justice category.
Yes.
And her book was called The Price We Paid, I believe. Isn't that the name of it? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have a
Yes.
copy? Oh, I see it behind you, but do you have a copy that you can put
Yep.
like right in front? And she has the sticker on it as the
Yay.
winner. Yeah, as the winner in the category. And your book got one of the people on our committee. It was between your book and another book. I won't say the other book, but we actually had members of the committee read the book so we could make sure that we were judging it correctly and adequately, because it is a children's book award and
Yes.
your book is more for teens and young adults.
Yes.
So with the other children's books, they're short and we could pretty much, a lot of them, most of them, we could read either all of them or part of them, you know, in the process of judging. But for the teen and young adult books, we had to have a member of the committee read it and then give an assessment. And it was very highly rated.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's the first book by Joylyn Ross's publishing house,
Yes.
And Path to Publishing, well, it's a PTP Publishing or something like that.
PTP Press. Yeah,
Press.
PTP
Okay.
Press.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and you all did a lot as far as promotion and marketing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that the actual book contents live up to the hype.
Yes.
Because
Thank you.
some books don't. Some books, there's a lot of hype. Then you go
Yeah.
and read them and you're like, what in the world?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, I
it
agree.
happens more than you think.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us, first, what gave you the idea to write the book? And congratulations on your award.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I have it here. It's
Okay, it's showing
I
your
keep it
award.
on my mantle.
Okay, it's her award
Thank you.
for the category she was in. And that's something, it's always good to be able to say you're an award-winning
Yeah.
author. That's
Yeah.
something, that's something for your resume.
Yeah.
And it gets people's attention.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, first and foremost, thank you guys for the platform. I think it's very important to have Black stories told.
Absolutely.
That's extremely important to have our stories highlighted. So, and even just to have a platform, to have our stories told and read. So I thank you. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you. But honestly, the book was written to frame an understanding for inclusivity, adversity, and also just to highlight the double-mindedness of how like both good and evil it does exist in communities and also in individuals, especially when we have bias presence and so many harmful stereotypes out there, when it comes to other cultures and other races. So the book was really, it wasn't just a book. It was more than like a novel. So we was like, okay, we want to really take like a novel approach and we want to create like a companion program to go along with it for schools and for students and educators and just for them to be able to say, okay, it's conversational, it's educational, it's empathetic, but where do my bias, lie? Like it's really a way for us all to like do the work and sit back and ask questions for ourselves. Like, okay, am I biased in some ways? You know what I mean? So that the book was structured that way on purpose for us to really be able to do the work. I'm a firm believer that books can be a form of activism,
Absolutely.
So that was a big part of like why I structured it and wrote it the way that I wrote it.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. Because
Yeah.
I'm working on a book for this year that
Really a way for us all to like do
turn your device off. It's a device on somewhere. Is that on your end, Nikki?
No, that
No.
was my computer. My computer went crazy. I'm good.
Oh, okay. But there some of the books that really deal with culture, or one word people use is the zeitgeist, and that's like the prevailing attitudes about certain things. And usually it is related to culture.
Yeah.
It's good to be able to write a book, and sometimes it's fiction and sometimes it's nonfiction.
Yes.
But it's good to do a fictionalized account because a lot of times that's it's more approachable for some people.
And that's what I was going to say. It's more digestible. I mean, you can tell, and I think I said this a little earlier in the show,
Mm-hmm.
when you can write about real life things, when you can tell your truths, but do it in a fictional way, people don't feel preached at. They can actually digest the message a lot better because they can identify with the characters. They can put themselves into the situation.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree, and even in that interim, to piggyback off of that, it also allows us to counter negative influences, you know,
Yes.
like you said, without us feeling preached at, or, you know, without us feeling like somebody badgering us or giving they, you know, pushing their beliefs off on us. It helps us to counter negative influences as well, and like address some of those stereotypes. So I agree. I totally agree.
Mhm.
So is the book somewhat autobiographical, or is it purely fiction?
You know what? I get that question a lot. Somebody just asked me this a couple days ago. I really do get this question a lot. Honestly, I would say maybe like 80% of it, I did pull from like my own life, or, you know, things that I've experienced, or things that someone close in proximity to me may have experienced. But it's definitely parts that are pulled from my life. Growing up, there was like this neighborhood place where my grandmother would like send us to get like cigarettes from the bootleg men, and they sold everything over there: cigarettes, wine, beer, whatever you can name it, they sold it, right? Socks, and it was called Buzzerville. And I was like, when I was trying to find the name to the town, I didn't want to like name it, you know, something obvious, you know, with like sundown. I knew I wanted it to have like sundown town, and things that were related to racism and things of that nature. And I was like, I knew I wanted to be in Alabama. So what I did was, me and a team of people, we actually we caught a plane to Alabama, and then we drove through small parts of Alabama. And I was like, I got to be able to see it. Where would I place this place at, you know, if I want to, you know, because at this time I hadn't even come up with like a name or anything. So I was like, I got to be able to see it. You know, I got to be able to feel it. Like, and when we drove, and I was like, this is it. When we landed in like the middle of nowhere, and I was like, Buzzerville. I want to name it Buzzerville. So it is a lot of things that from my childhood and my upbringing that I did add. So it's about 80% autobiography. But I mixed it with fiction too. So
Yeah,
As long as you mix it with fiction.
yeah.
So people
Yes.
won't be offended. But
Yes.
it's good to go to a location and get a feel for
It is.
just the vibe of what and to watch the traffic and the people,
Yes.
and look at the establishments, and it's good to be able to do that.
Yeah.
In my last novel, I had decided to pick a excerpt outside of Houston. So it was past the suburbs. And I just went online and then randomly Googled, okay, what's a area that's about 70, 60, 70 miles. And then so I found one. And then I said, you know what? I need to go there. If I'm gonna name my actual place, I need to go there
Right.
and
Yes.
see
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
what it is, and what it's about. So
Yeah.
I can actually do and get some good descriptions for
Yeah.
streets and churches and things like that. And so that's what we spent a Saturday and drove out there, and me and my husband drove. And then I recorded, did some voice
Yeah.
recordings of what I watched. And then so it's important to get a feel for a place if the setting is really central to the story,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And honestly, in that process, I really learned like Google can only take you so far, right? So
Exactly. That was a problem I had.
it can
Yeah,
only
Even
take
you got to
Google Maps,
experience it.
yeah,
Yep.
it'll take you to the street, but you need to actually go to
And get a
get a
sense of
feel.
and
You
get a
gotta
feel of it.
experience it. You know, hear see the sights, hear the sounds,
Yes.
feel the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's how you can really make the description pop.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and I think that if you really want to, if you know, when you want a reader to have an immersive experience, like you say, you want to make sure that they can see, hear, feel, smell every single thing, and Google, it just can't provide you that. You know, like it can't
It
give you
can give
that
you
realness.
facts. It can
Yeah,
give
it
you
can give
some
you
facts,
facts, but that's it. You
but
know,
not the feel.
yeah, but not the feel. Yep. I agree. I agree.
So what's been like the feedback? Because you were on the show when the book first came out,
Yes.
and that's been like about a year ago,
Yes.
a little bit longer than that. So how's the last year been for you?
It's been really good. Since the show, the book is now a 5-time award winner. You know, Black Authors Matter made it 5 times. So I
Great.
haven't had any negative feedback. What you know what, I take that back. In the beginning, we did have some negative feedback, but it was more so from individuals who do not come from the Black culture, so they didn't quite understand Black lingo or Black phrases or Black terms. And I even had one reader was like, I stopped halfway through because I just could not read this form of child abuse. And it's like, where did you see child abuse? That
Yeah,
child didn't get
sometimes you
beat.
have to wonder, like, what are they talking about? Did
Right.
they have me
Like,
mixed up with somebody else?
yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Did they read the right book? Like, but then I really had to take a step back, and I was like, you know what? At that point, I think that was when we really realized, like, okay, now is a good time to like implement the bias training, because people will judge this based off of like their own bias or their own stereotypical beliefs or something. Just because you grew up away does not mean or does not discount how someone else grew up. And at first I would take it like really, really offensive, because I'm like, wait a minute, like, why are they saying this is unrealistic when I know I experienced this? You know what I mean? So in the beginning it was tough, because I was like, how you gonna tell me what I went through? Like, how you gonna tell me what I know happened? You know, but then I had to really take a step back, and I was like, you know what? They don't come from that world. You know, a lot of people don't come from that world. So that's when we was like, okay, you know what? It's extremely important for us to take like a novel approach with this and make it more than just a book, you know, and let's do a bias training. Let's rewrite, like allow workshopping where they rewrite their first chapter based on their own bias, you know. And that was it changed my perspective. So in the beginning, it was like, what are these people reading? Like, you know, but as time went on, you know, and we kind of learned how to approach the situation with what it was. You know, you got to call a spade a spade. Like, that's just like a lot of the things that I addressed in there it's a part of Black culture. You know what I mean? Like, it's and it gives like crucial insights into the reality of racism and the bias behind it. So I stood 10 toes down on it, because at the end of the day, it don't change the facts. You know, like, although you didn't experience it, it just does not change the facts. You know, so um, in the beginning, it was a little, you know, it was a little rocky, because I was like, what is y'all talking about? But as time went on, and then I started to get more accolades, and I started to get more the awards started coming. I'm like, okay, now people who get it, they understand it. So
Yeah, and you can't please everybody with your
no,
work.
you can't.
And if you could, but if everybody's pleased, that means somebody's lying, or they didn't read it, or you know,
Right.
no book,
Or
you
they
know,
didn't read it closely.
Yeah, no book is gonna be the same for everyone. Now, some books that I've tried to read, because if it's not making sense, or it's not well written, or it's not well edited, I will not finish it. I'm not going to keep going. And then, you know, I'll read some reviews, and I'm like, did they actually read the book? Because a lot of times a person will like a book, they'll say they like it, but I'm wondering, did they actually read the book all the way through? Because a book may be good at the beginning and then it may fall off.
Yeah.
Or it may be slow.
Yeah.
It might take, now if it's too slow, I won't even get there, but something has to happen in the first 50 pages. It doesn't have to be like excitement, but it has to be more than just descriptions. For me, I have to have more than that. And I did, I reviewed the last 3 books I read, and I don't review a lot of books, but the last 3 that I read over the holidays, I did post reviews on them, because it was 2 5s and a 4. And the 4 could have been a 5 had they had a final round of copy edits. Because take a point off if it's a mistake on every other page. No, I'm gonna
That
take.
makes sense. That makes sense, and that's fair. That's fair.
But it was good, right? And it was a new author I hadn't read before. So actually, they had been on the show, and I read her book as a result of her being on the show, and it was a good story. Just needed it was self-published. I needed one more round.
Okay.
Copy edits. So.
And that's fair. I think that's fair. Like it has to be universal, like across the board. I totally agree. I think that's totally fair, because although you you self-publish or you independent or whatever the case may be, you always want to make sure that your books can stand up against any book out there that's in the big 5,
Yes, because people are going to compare your book to standard.
Yes, they're
now,
going to compare
some
to
of the
standard.
published books from big publishers have mistakes, but they're not on every other page. It might be 5 total in the book or something. And for a person, some people don't really care about that. They can read over those. But I can't. I've spent too many years editing.
Yeah.
And I'm really anal about that. And I don't, but my own work, I don't do the final edits on my own work. Every book needs to be edited by fresh eyes. And so, but good storytelling, good cover. The cover is important.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Good too.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just all around. I'm very excited for you and Joylyn. Because she's breaking new ground. She's always breaking some new ground.
Yes.
This is true. This is true.
This is what she does.
Yes.
And so she shows the way for the rest of us, sometimes things we hadn't thought about, or just doing things a different way.
Yeah.
And she's always been a person who's open,
absolutely.
Not full of herself. Some people have a little bit of success and then they get full of themselves.
Yeah.
But she's not that way.
No, and honestly, like when I went into it initially, I was like, okay, I knew that it was a voice that I wanted to get out, and I knew that I wanted to tell the story in a certain way. But it was honestly Joy Lynn and her team who was like, okay, we gonna go the extra mile, like we gonna be more inventive. Like this is more than just a book. So she's really, really good at like going the extra mile and innovation wise, like and the bigger picture. And I think that's what has made this that's what made me believe in it more. Like I believe in it because I wrote it, but it like the movement behind it made me believe in it much more. Like it gave me more confidence. So she's really, really good at that. Her team is super good at that. So I agree with that. I totally agree. She's the best. She really is.
Yeah, she's good people.
Yeah,
good people.
Yes, she's the best. She is.
Now, do you live in Chicago? You live in Chicago?
Yes, I live in cold, windy city, Chicago. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how did
you live in that cold that makes me not complain about the cold I'm in.
Yeah, and it's even cold in Houston. We had to cover up our plants and stuff. Okay, we had 2 nights in a row where it was freezing, and that
What
is
was freezing?
below 32.
Oh, okay, I'll give it to you then.
Now
So
you
I
all
thought you were
had
gonna,
snow. I saw you all had snow in the DMV.
yeah, I thought you were gonna be like my coworker said. We had a freeze last night. It went down to 61. I was like, shut up.
No, this was actual. No, in fact, it's gonna be for the next. They had snow in Dallas. Now Dallas is 4 hours straight north of us, so they get snow. We don't get snow.
Oh wow!
We don't get snow. If we get snow, it's some flood. If they say it's a chance that it might snow, they close the schools.
Wow, that's so crazy. That's crazy.
And it does, and normally it's just flurries, and as soon as it hits the ground, it melts and it's gone. It's no. Well, now we had what we called our deep freeze in 2021, where it didn't get above. It stayed freezing. It froze at night. It went down to 20 something, and then it never got above freezing for 2 days. At all.
Wow.
So that was for us. And then we had ice, like it sleeted and stuff iced over, and people, they can't drive and stuff. So, and we lost power because the ice was on the wires, and we were having blackouts, like power was off for 12 hours and then to be on for 12. That went on for 3 days. That was for us, it was very traumatic. It was because we're not used to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the summer, we're cooking. Also, during in May we cook till the end of October. The end of October, it goes to like 80. It's 80 at the end of October. Okay. So every region has its weather patterns. I couldn't live in with all that cold y'all have up there. That's the serious hawk, as we used to call it up there.
You get used to it. Like I've been here all my life, so
okay.
You know it's coming. You know what I mean? Like you get used to it, and like we already know we got to brace for it. If we could just survive until like February, March, we'll be fine.
But y'all get snow in April sometimes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, we get snow. We've gotten snow in April. Yes, we have. Yes,
yeah, so.
I've seen that before.
Yes, we definitely gotten it in April for sure. So
yeah. So now it's a setting for your book. You said it's Buzzardville. It's in the South. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, does any of it take place in Chicago? Like, did they go from Chicago to the Alabama town, or is the whole thing in the town in Alabama?
Well, now at the end of the book, the family does decide that they're going to move to Chicago. So, that they're going to navigate to Chicago. So, it does touch base in Chicago a little bit at the end, very briefly.
Okay. So they had a great migration. Now, is it contemporary? Is the book set? Is the setting now, or is it in the past?
No, it's actually in 1992. So the setting is set in 1992. Yeah. So no.
Okay, so it's not like the 60s or.
No. It's It's 1992. Yeah.
Okay. So it's still, pretty much contemporary.
Yeah.
I think it's not considered historical. Isn't it 50 years, Rhonda? When something is considered historical fiction.
I think that's what I think we discussed that on the show before. Like,
yeah,
50 years ago. You know what? The 90s is historical fiction.
Yes, almost. It's before the internet. It wasn't any internet.
No, it was not the age of the internet.
No, that's like ancient times. When I tell my daughter we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones or any of that.
No.
Can't even imagine it, but we talked to each
We
other.
did, and we went to the library.
Yeah,
we read books.
And we wrote letters.
We
wrote letters.
Yes.
Real letters with our
Yes.
hands.
Real letters.
Yes.
Yeah, we communicated. So anyway, we're at the end of our time. But Nikki, congratulations again. Show you your book cover one more time.
Yes,
the price we pay is young adult fiction. It's an award-winning book, 5-time award-winning. And congratulations again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
You have a great night. The rest of your night. Congratulations once again.
Thank
and
you.
Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year.
Same to you, ladies. You guys have a good night. Bye-bye.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye. Okay, so before we bring on our final guest, did anybody win the book? Did you notice anybody?
Well, yes, of course somebody won the book, and it's always that person who always wins the book.
Okay, who is it?
Curtis.
Curtis won it. Okay, well, Curtis, Happy New Year. You know, the last book, Lydia won the last book.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, but Curtis, he wins most of the time. So we'll send you your book, Curtis. It'll go in the mail this week. And congratulations on that. So we have our final guest, and it's two young ladies that opened a bookstore recently in Avondale Estates, Georgia, which I'm assuming is a suburb of Atlanta. And they named their store A Small Place Bookstore. It's an independent bookstore. And welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Glad you have your name there. I think someone has
a little bit of feedback.
Is it a
Are y'all
device?
in the same room?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think somebody may have a device on.
Yeah.
Okay, you just need to turn the sound off on the device. But I'm glad you have your names so we know who's who. So Jasmine and Enkeshi, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't want to. I don't like to mangle people's names because I don't like people to mangle mine. And my real name is my whole name. I should say real name. My whole name is Guinevere. People butcher it. They look at it and it's spelled like it sounds, but people look at it and they freeze up. You know, they don't know what to say. So I try to get people's names right because your name is your name. So anyway, welcome to the show and congratulations on having your bookstore. Now, Jasmine, what does your shirt say? I see read on there. Okay,
so
read,
write, revolt.
Oh, okay. All right.
Love that.
It's one of our sweatshirts that we have in the store, and it's been a great seller when the weather gets cold, and it reminds people of the importance of reading. So I'd wear it tonight.
Okay, that's great. And now, how do you all know each other?
Kesh, you want to take it?
Jazz, that's your lane.
That's my lane. Okay, it's my lane. So, Enkeshi has been my friend almost 20 years. We attended the same college together, Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta.
Okay.
And our last names were both T's. Before we got married, we both had T last names. So one of the first things we did as first years where we had to line up, I think I was right in front of you, Enkeshi. And we developed a friendship over the course of our college years. But we've been friends and sisters since then, have experienced a lot of life milestones with one another, changing cities and kids and families and new jobs and all of the things. So it's pretty much like my family at this point.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is. Okay. And, long-lasting friendships are to be treasured because there are a lot of short-term so-called friends, but the ones that are there for the long haul are the ones you can count. But sometimes people that you know for a long time, sometimes you all can have a misunderstanding. That happens. And sometimes the breach is healed, but sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
I have one really good friend that we had a sort of falling out. It wasn't on me. Well, it wasn't my choice. Let me say that. But it lasted for 10 years. And then we reconnected.
Oh, wow.
And now, it's back like it was before.
Good.
Mhm. So anyway, now what made you all decide to open a bookstore?
So this bookstore grew out of different projects that we were working on separately, but supporting each other through. So I started a bookstore in Knoxville a few years ago um, with the community there, and then I moved back to Atlanta about 2 years ago. And so when I moved back to Atlanta, sort of kind of bringing this bookstore world that I had been a part of for so many years that I really loved, couldn't part with it. And so I was doing a lot of pop-up bookshops, and Jasmine and Zuby, who was another one of our close friends from college, had a fashion business that they had started, a fashion brand called Interwoven. And so Jazz was also doing pop-ups. Zuby lives in Ghana. And so Jazz was sort of holding down the sales front in the States. And so when I moved back to Atlanta, we were sort of popping up together, sharing the costs and sort of collaborating and, working it out together so we could support each other and make it possible. And about last year around this time, after we did a long-term pop-up, we kind of had a conversation about being too tired and too old to be, carrying all of these loads all the time and around the city. So we decided that we would start looking for something permanent, a more permanent situation. And so we started looking at places to rent to open a store. And so made a vision board in January of last year, or January, February, something along those lines. And we got the space, I think at the end of February, early March, something like that, and opened in April. So we're coming up on our first year.
Well,
Oh,
congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
what types of books do you offer in your store?
Primarily Black books, all genres, different age groups, so a little bit of everything, from African reads and Caribbean reads to cookbooks, fiction, nonfiction, lots of children's books. We both have young children, and so they definitely they advocate for spaces for themselves in whatever we do. And so, there's a kids area. But yeah, we carry a little bit of everything. We get a lot of requests for independent authors, and because our store is so tiny, we only have 226 square feet, so it's a room. Um, and so we do support independent authors by doing book signings in the store, and we'll carry at least 5 at a time. But because of limited shelf space, we don't have a ton of them. But we're always thinking about ways to support independent authors as well, because there's several of them in our community, people that we know personally, and then people that sort of reach out to us through different networks.
Oh, that's so I'm sorry, were you about to say something? Oh, wait.
I was gonna add, Rhonda, that
Go right
because
ahead.
our space is so small, we have a lot of fun choosing which books that we carry, and
Okay.
Enkeshi has a lot of fun doing that part. But some of the things we carry are things that we like to read or things that have been impactful for us, and our customers help inform what's on the shelves as well. We look at various lists to kind of get a sense of that, and we try to be attentive also to books that have been banned, Black books that have been banned, and providing space for that as well. But when people come
Also,
in,
like books that we grew up reading, like
we grew up reading.
we have a lot of like reading rainbow books, books that are not necessarily the newest things that are coming off the press, but some older backlist books as well. And because because the space is small, you never know what you will find at any time that you come in. So that's kind of cool too. It's like a treasure trove for buyers who come in, and just kind of happen upon something because that's what we have in at the moment, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, what made you pick Avondale Estates as opposed to Atlanta proper?
Um, Several reasons. The easiest one is that that's where we found a place that we could afford, um, and really we were able to afford our space because it was so small, right? I don't know if you all are in Atlanta or not, but real estate in Atlanta is not cheap, especially commercial real estate. And so, you know, finding a place that we can afford. We both have full-time jobs, so this is not our primary source of income, and likewise, we're not open all week long. So we knew that we needed to do something that we could afford to sustain ourselves and sustain the work while the store grows. And so, you know, the overhead cost was a major consideration, and we found the space that we found in Avondale Estates because, like I said, it's such a small space, and so, in you know, in grand scheme of like per square footage, you know, it's pretty high, but because it's just 226 of them, you know, it was doable. You know, it's kind of like it's really exciting how, you know, we come from traditions, you know, in families, Black folks who make a dollar out of 15 cents, and that
Right,
is
right.
what we did in the store. You know, people are often surprised by what they find when they come in the doors. You know, they see a small place and they come in and like, it is a small place, and
It is
then
a
they're
small
like,
place.
Yeah,
It really is a
it's
small
so
who
place.
calls it a
cute, you
small
know,
place?
it's pretty, yeah. So they're surprised by the size, but they're also surprised by, you know, how well the space is curated as well.
So does that make trying to have events a challenge? Like for instance, book signings or book club events? Are you able to host any of those?
Go ahead, Jazz.
Yeah. So it's been an exciting challenge, Rhonda. And we've been able to be creative and resourceful with what we have. So in the space where we are, we share it with technically four other businesses. And they are primarily not there on the weekends, but we are there on the weekends. And
Mm.
so we have outdoor space that because we are in Atlanta,
Oh, that's a
most
good
times
idea.
the temperature is mild. We're able
Yeah.
to put out tents and open the doors and extend our space to make it more welcoming. We curated a little reading garden area so to have like
Mm-hmm.
some outdoor seatings. And one of our neighbors had been very supportive of us and allowing us to use her space, which is about twice as large, to host one of the larger events. We hosted Arthur Tricia Hershey of the Knot Ministry a few weeks ago over the Christmas holiday. And it was one of the larger things that we did, but we've been able to just be resourceful and use what we have. Um, and also recognizing that our sweet spot are smaller curated events for now, at least. So,
Yeah.
and living into that, kind of owning that that's who we are. That's the type of experience we want to provide where you can really um, talk with an author and connect
Right.
with their friends or their people and really get
Well,
a sense of the heart behind it.
what I'm hearing is creativity, and I'm hearing networking. Networking not just with authors and book readers, but with your neighbors, because you're sharing that
Absolutely.
space with other businesses. And because you have established a relationship with, which is what else I'm hearing,
Mhm.
you've been able to kind of share spaces a little bit and help each other out a little.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's definitely what, you know, community is really important to us and what we're trying to do in the bookstore. And as much as we are, you know, we try to be in community with the people around us, like our neighbors in this building, we're also encouraging our customers to sort of be in community with each other. And so, you know, the types of events that we do have and will have are the sort of intimate experiences where people can connect with each other, you
Yes,
know, on a
yes.
deeper level. It's not just
doing it because it's trendy or because it's, the thing to do. But like, we come with our true selves and we meet each other where we are and, have deep, meaningful connections and conversations.
Wonderful.
Well, it sounds like you all thought through how you were going to open, because a lot of people, they make the mistake of, when they get a brick and mortar store, they take on too much overhead. And entrepreneurs tend to be optimistic, and I do.
We have to be optimistic.
We do. And I've had to rein in my optimism over the years. I'm still optimistic, but I had to a dose of realism, because I've been self-employed most of my adult life, from age 25. But we had a brick and mortar store for 10 years, so I understand having one. And we sold a lot online though, so we started off only online, and then we moved into a space where we were shipping, but it had a storefront. It was funny, and we didn't even use the storefront. Then we said, you know what? We should turn it into a store. We're here anyway. So that's what we ended up doing. And so we had revenue from both people coming in, but we weren't solely dependent on people coming in. But even with that, we had too much overhead. We didn't start off that way, but they kept raising the rent. And so, just be mindful that could happen. And
absolutely.
And then everything became more expensive. Then we had employees. Everything, it was all of it. And then we got a smaller space for a while. We tried that in the same strip. Cut our space. But we had the store for 10 years, so we were there for a long time. And it was me and my husband working full time. That was our source of income. So God is good. And so, we always have our ear to the ground for the next thing. We were never afraid to pivot or make a move. And you have to be able to do that otherwise. So that's just my 2 cents in terms of, but you all started off right, because some people start off with a big space. And a lot of times when you first open a bookstore, a Black bookstore, I don't know about other ones, but I've seen this trend among Black bookstores. When they first open, they have a huge show of support when they first open. But it's not the grand opening that sustains you and helps you pay your bills. It's the day-to-day, week-to-week traffic and sales. Not just traffic, not just browsers, not just people coming in and looking around. That you don't get any money from that. So I congratulate you all on starting. You all said you both have full-time jobs. That's good. You're not dependent on the store for your income. Because that can be a challenge, and but most people don't do it with both the husband and wife working full time in it. Normally, one of them is working somewhere else for the benefits.
And that's a good point that Gwen is making. I mean, you both have full-time jobs, and you're running a brick and mortar business. Do you guys ever have a chance to sleep?
I thought about that too.
Girl, that's the question.
I slept this holiday. I said, Enkeshi, are you resting? I binge watched some of my favorite childhood movies this holiday. But
like a Christmas.
Yeah, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. I'll share this. I'll share this though, and I think Enkeshi and I are probably in alignment about it. But when we decided to open a small place bookshop, I can Enkeshi shared she did something similar in Knoxville. It was a community space with a bookstore, a part of it. And she was clear that this was different. It's Atlanta, it's different. It's also with me. So it's a different experience. But we told ourselves from the beginning, that we want this to be a place of joy, and we want this to be an extension of our sisterhood and our friendship. And if it's not feeling like joy, then we need to reevaluate while we're doing it. So in our big dreams, we'll have a multi-million-dollar bookstore, in Atlanta. That's our big dream, but we also recognize that baby steps, small steps, doing things bit by bit is a very smart way to build. And we're not interested in sacrificing our well-being at the expense of it. So it's a dance. And we do that, we have our monthly planning meetings. Like, all right, what do we have the capacity for this month? And we have sales goals, and we have very pragmatic things we have to attend to, but trying to keep the heart of why we're doing it and letting the bookshop be a place of hope and be a safe space for us. Like when I was there on Sunday, it felt like a respite for me. It felt like a place to kind of like decompress, and like it felt like a restful place. And it may not always feel that way, but I think that's part of why that's helping to sustain us and why we want to do it. So
for sure. And I think like, like this last stretch, like up until the holiday, I feel like we were feeling it, right? We knew that we needed to rest during this holiday break. And, we talked about like not letting the hype of the holidays like overextend us. So trying to do some extra hours because we're home or open for this day or that day, even though the temptation was there and we saw potential, we also had to remind ourselves not to do the most, right? One thing that, Jazz mentioned about the stages, that's something that I will never forget. When I started the bookstore in Knoxville, Jazz told me, you can do everything you want to do in life, but it may be in stages. And that resonated with me. And we did that bookstore in stages. We started renting a space to the point we bought a space, right? So that one grew over time. And that's the same idea that we bring into this space. And the other thing that I want to mention too is that we have support of our families, right? We are not doing this alone by any means, right? Like my husband, Jazz's dad, our husbands, the kids, my parents, her parents, our siblings, everybody, and beyond, right? Friends come in and do things like take pictures for us. I mean, so we met friends at the bookstore that are showing up for us, right? So we do have the support of our community, and I think because it's not this major ordeal, people can kind of pop in as they can, as as time allows or as their resources allow, and pop out. And so it's really, and we keep up with Black bookstore world nationally, right? And we see all the things that are happening, and some of the stores that to us are like models that are like winning, and then you hear like they're shutting down, and that's just so heartbreaking to see. Right. And so it's this, it is a dance, and we have to figure out how to make sure that we have what we need. We have growing kids that we don't want to miss important moments for. Right. So we work with each other. Like, I need a weekend. You take this weekend, I take this weekend, we flip flop Saturday, Sunday. So we're figuring it out. It's not easy, and it doesn't always align. But the good thing about this being built on our friendship and us valuing our friendship as much as we value these economic endeavors, I think it's allowing us to sort of figure out, what works and how to make it work for us, so that this maintains the sense of joy that we started it with.
Now, where's Avondale Estates in relationship to Atlanta? Is it north, south, east, or west?
It's east. So east. Are you familiar with Decatur, Gwen?
I've heard of
Decatur.
Yeah.
Decatur Book Festival. So it's like east, kind of southeast, east of Atlanta, and Avondale Estates is like wrestled right, a little bit further east of Decatur, between like Decatur, Stone Mountain. So it's definitely Metro Atlanta, but kind of like that eastern part of.
We both live in Decatur, so it's right there.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's very close to Agnes Scott, and you talked a little bit about the Agnes Scott college roots, and so
Is Agnes Scott? How big a school is that? It's a small school. Is it a liberal arts school?
Liberal arts college, around 1,000. Around 1,000
About
now.
1,000 undergrads and a couple
Okay.
hundreds of grads.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, smaller school. So yeah, it's easier to get to know people. It's not a HBCU though, is it?
It's not. No,
No,
it's a
it's
women's college.
predominantly women's college or historically women's college.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but there's
Okay.
a
Historically.
strong Black population on
Yeah.
our campus and with
Okay.
students of color in general.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you all have been able to maintain your friendship and the
And
business
I'm
at the same
yeah,
time.
and I'm glad that it sounds like you went into your business with intentionality and you also went in with your eyes open. You knew what to expect. And and just as Gwen was saying earlier, often entrepreneurs get really bright-eyed and idealistic and they want to do all these big things, but the fact that you went into your business with your eyes open, you were intentional about how you were going to use your space, and then you're sticking with that. That says a lot. And I love the fact that you are trying to keep your work-life balance, because
Mhm.
that's hard, having a full-time job and a brick and mortar business, and you have families.
And you got small kids.
Yes.
Then we had one daughter. Well, we still have her, but she was a little girl when we had the store. She's 28 now, but she was at the store a lot.
Yeah.
Because when my husband would pick her up from school and bring her to the store, so she was always with us, and so she got to see how a business, operates, which she doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. She said it's too much work, but
It is.
she understands it.
Absolutely.
But she was always with us, and when people suggest things to her that are business related, she can respond with intelligent answers because she's seen it, so she gives people advice a lot of times just because she grew up in it, and she knows what it's all about. And it's good to what we did. My husband had sons that were older, and they lived with us, and we put them to work. We put, and we paid them, but everybody was involved. And like you said, you have your extended family and everybody is involved, and that makes it not so stressful because you're still spending time with your family, even though you're
Right.
working,
Right.
but that makes it.
Especially with the kids, I think, and
Yeah.
our daughters are a year apart, and so they spend a lot of time at the store, and they're developing a friendship because of that too. So
And that's a good
they
thing.
call each other cousin friends.
Yeah.
And so they're learning the bookstore business, but they're also like developing like a friendship, a rooted friendship. So that's really nice to see as well.
Okay, well, we're almost at the end of our time, so tell our viewers how they can connect with your store. Do you have a website or social media and all of that?
Yeah, we are a small place bookshop. .com. We're a small place bookshop on Instagram and TikTok. We do have an online bookshop so people can buy books from wherever we are, wherever they are, and we'll ship. We also have a bookshop.org account if people want to support us through bookshop.org or Libra FM. We're on all of those platforms. We definitely want people to give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok, and check us out. Jazz, add a thing.
Yeah, that you got it all. Oh, Interwoven. Put that out. If you want to follow the boutique partner Interwoven, you can do that as well. So
Yeah,
they're
we didn't
both.
get a chance to talk about the interwoven,
It's all
but I did
connected.
go
It's
on
all
your
connected.
site and I saw some of the clothing. So they also have some authentic African print clothing and things on there, and they can tell you more about it if you go to their website
Yes.
and reach out to them. They'll tell you about that as well.
I'll just add this last little piece here.
Okay.
The connection for us is about stories, Black stories in all of its forms. And so we tell stories through, of course, our literature, our poetry, things of that sort. We also tell stories through our fashion and how we choose to outwardly express ourselves. And so that is part of why it made sense for us to have two things kind of under the same space. But Gwen and Rhonda, we want to thank y'all for
you.
curating this space for authors, for booksellers, for folks,
Readers, yeah.
for readers. Y'all have been doing it, and we want to say thank you. We appreciate what y'all are doing and for having us on this evening.
And we thank you for joining
Absolutely.
us tonight and sharing your story, because your story could be an inspiration to the many people who are listening to the show and will listen to the show throughout the week. So thank you for what you're doing.
And if you're in the area, go shop.
Check us out.
Yes,
Yes.
if you're
Check
in
us out.
And also, we also placed your website in the chat. So everybody, please go and visit this bookstore, whether it be virtual or in person. Visit this bookstore, support this bookstore. We don't have a lot of Black bookstores.
Right.
And it's wonderful to see more opening up. So congratulations on that. And that's free.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a great evening.
All right, good night.
Bye.
Well, we've had our first show of the year, and we're excited about what 2025 has in store. And we will see you, all the episodes for the next 4 weeks are completely booked, Rhonda. So we have a really good lineup for the next month. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.